Thank you for that introduction. I have some PowerPoints that are supposed to be popping up. Public pensions are a big deal financially all across the advanced world and in much of the third world as well. So this is an important matter. Aging has been a major issue as the baby boomers have been transiting from the labor market into retirement. And so this is a big change in the relationship between the contribution makers and the benefit recipients. And this will be ongoing with further large changes coming. Not surprisingly, over the last 25 years, with all of this aging happening, pensions have been receiving repeated reforms in many countries. And so that's more background than we probably needed. On to the next slide. Pension design is complicated because it works for the economy as a whole, and family structures vary, labor market experiences vary, and in designing it, we have to keep in mind that for each individual, they will be subject to it for all the years of their work life and retirement life. And at any year, there are many different cohorts being affected by the rules in that year. So pension design is dealing with a complex matter and dealing in the context where economic and demographic risks to the system are ongoing and predicted with sizable variance and error. And of course, administrative costs matter. So risk sharing is a central element of design. For individuals, the pension system should be reasonably predictable so people can make their own planning, doing decisions about when to retire, decisions about how much to save outside the pension, all sorts of things. And from the point of view of the finances of the country, pensions are important. To have good responses to the actual realizations going on, it's important to have both automatic and legislative adjustments. Around the world, everybody is familiar with automatic adjustments that are indexed around a price index and or a wage index. And in thinking about how to go forward, you have to pay attention to not just the finances, not just the implications for the functioning of the economy, but also for the issue of income distribution, both across cohorts and within cohorts. And going forward into the future, it has to move beyond just using prices and or wages for indexing, but do some indexing for the demographic developments and for the financial balance of how much the system costs relative to the resources they want to put in. So how can you match the costs with the resources you want to make available? There are 4 instruments: the size of an initial benefit for a retiree, the size of the increases annually in the pension, the age at which the pension starts being paid, and whether part of the pension, whether it gets taxed and that gets used for pension, whether when you have a non-contributory pension, pensions focused on people with small pensions or low overall incomes, how that is designed. How does it go to everybody? Is it targeted? Is some of it taken back? These issues are the ones that indexing has to address. So let me give some examples of other countries, because that gives a sense of how well or badly things work elsewhere. So when you think about the ages for benefit eligibility, there are 2 kinds of systems. There's a single age system where there's an age where the pension starts and the pension benefit is stated at that starting age. You can delay the start after that if you want, or maybe not. That varies. And a dual age system. A dual age system has a first age at which you can claim a benefit and an age at which the benefit formula applies. An example of a single age system is in the Netherlands, where they have a non-contributory pension, referred to as AOW, which goes to everyone the same amount for people who have been in the country for their whole lives, and adjusted just for time in the country. It's a flat amount. It goes to everybody. And if you want to adjust this, you can adjust it. That will change both the start and the number of people getting it. And that is what they did in the Netherlands, where they will have automatic indexing of this age. With a dual age system, there are very different considerations about the two pieces. The age for full benefits plays a critical role in the size of benefits. You change that and you change all of the benefits, because there are benefit increases for starting later than that and benefit decreases for starting earlier than that. So when you change the age for full benefits, you change the benefit level for the initial benefit at any age at which you claim it. This is not really something about retirement. It's something about the benefit level. The earliest eligibility age is a different story. It is something that, first of all, requires people not to start before that, but still allows people to start after that. So what's the point of having that age? It's to prevent people from starting too soon on a reduced basis, which will have an impact on costs and have an impact on them. And for people who aren't starting at that age, moving that age is unimportant. So the concerns when you're indexing the age for full benefits and the concerns when you're indexing the earliest eligibility age are very different. And that has not received adequate attention in many discussions of policy. So what kinds of indexing are going on in other countries that might be looked to as examples? In Sweden, there's what's called a notional defined contribution system. And in this system, you take the earnings history of a worker, you accumulate that using an internal rate of return, using an indexed rate of return. And then when you go to calculate the initial benefit, you use the life expectancy calculation so that each cohort has basically a different initial benefit formula. And now, as life expectancy goes up, you can reduce benefits in step with that, and you can also make other changes. A second approach to indexing benefits is the dependency ratio, which is used in Germany in its point system. With a point system, again, they look at all of your earnings, accumulate those, and just as you do with the NDC, but you don't make a life expectancy adjustment. Germany accumulates that basically with a point adjustment system heavily dependent on wages, but with other pieces. And one of those pieces is the dependency ratio, the ratio of the number of people getting benefits to the number of people working. And so again, it's an automatic adjustment reflecting demography. As the economy ages, it will take some of that cost and shift it between the retirees and the contributors. Both of those can be changed, making use of the dependency ratio to adapt to the aging. And a different approach is one looking at financial balance, rather than just looking at demography. And Sweden has an example of this that has various complications. I just want to mention the case of Canada, because Canada has a defined benefit pension. It isn't based on all of your earnings because they have a small fraction dropped out for insurance purposes, but almost all of them. And every 3 years, the actuary in Canada makes a projection for the next 75 years and looks to see whether the system satisfies the conditions of not just being able to pay, but being able to pay in a way that's viewed as fair across cohorts by maintaining the level of funding. It's a particular measure. The point here is if the system is not online with their desires for 75 years, the government has 6 months to do something about it. And if the government doesn't come to an agreement to do anything about it, there are 2 automatic changes. The contribution rate goes up for the next 3 years till the next actuarial valuation, and the annual adjustments of benefits for the cost of living don't happen. There's a freeze in benefits. So the idea here is to look at how the finances are developing and consider doing something automatically if the system is not addressed. Too many pension plans where people move across them so it doesn't address the full career. So that works poorly for mobile workers. Standardly, when you have a uniform system, you have supplements which can vary industry by industry, but it's not part of the national system. It's something that can be developed in a variety of different ways in countries. Secondly, looking at the major pensions, basing a pension on just 25 years of earnings rather than a full career or almost a full career is unfair for those with slow-growing earnings compared to those with fast-growing earnings. The fast-growing earners get more benefit relative to their contributions than with slow-growing earnings. That's not fair. And it also has an impact on incentives because if you're 25 years, it can affect your labor supply. And secondly, if you look at the public employees where pensions are based on final pay, that's been widely denounced as a bad design because, again, not only does it get much more generous for people who are getting steps up in their position and their pay at the end, but also it's very subject to manipulation. If people can get a promotion right at the end, suddenly they end up with a much larger pension. This is bad for the system, bad for many of the workers. And it would be important to add the missing design features, some indexing for demographic developments, whether done in the basis of life expectancy or done in the basis of, it's something that's a valuable addition to keeping a system functioning well. And focusing on financial balances in some way, looking at how the costs are playing out is again something that can be valuable as part of automatic adjustments. These should be added. Now, obviously, what's critically important is how you do transitions from an existing system to a new system. Even if you were going from one system to an alternative, better system, as Sweden did in the 90s, you have to figure out what you do for different cohorts. Some cohorts will be left unaffected. Some cohorts will be coming in and their whole career will be in the new system. And some cohorts will have experienced time making contributions under the previous system. and having built up expectations of benefits under the previous system. And so the issue of transitions is a major one. It's one that's hard to address anywhere. I think it would be very hard to try to do the entire economy all at once, although that has certain political appeal. Perhaps the government should just make a transition for some of the systems initially, and then follow it up with additional ones. The complication here is that pensions are part of the compensation of workers. Pensions are part of the expenses of business. And when you change the pension system dramatically, then you're going to end up changing pay as part of both respecting the past expectations and going forward with the labor supply. It could be that rather than trying to do it all at once, I conclude with an advertisement. If you would like to see a lot more discussion along these lines, I have a book with Professor Nicholas Barr of the London School of Economics, which has drawn attention in countries that have had ongoing pension debates. And so the economists in these countries have done translations to improve the discussion there. And if you're patient, Nick and I are working on a new book, which will be out in another year or two.